right, good evening. Welcome to the Monomoy Regional School Committee meeting for September 9th, 2021. I call the meeting to order at 6:31. And because we are partially remote, pursuant to the law signed by Governor Baker on June 16, 2021, an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, which include an extension until April 1, 2022, of the remote meeting provisions of his March 12, 2020 executive order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. We're going to call the meeting to order and do a roll call vote. So, Joe. Sharon, we have a lot of feedback from you. Sharon, we have feedback from you. Can you mute? Oh, we have some rain going on here, so it actually, I think you're hearing the rain. Can you hear me?
Can Joe hear us? I think Sharon is on.
Can you hear this?
Sharon's box is lit up. Yeah. And now it's us.
Joe, can you hear me? So there's a lot of rain and it's echoing throughout the building.
I don't think they can hear us.
And they can't hear.
You can hear me. This is like what the U.S. Embassy reported in Cuba.
I can't hear any. I can hear Joe.
We can hear you.
Can Sharon mute?
No. Can you type in the chat to let them?
I think Sharon needs to be muted.
Sharon, can you hit mute? I know. She can't hear me though.
But if she mutes, then we don't have to.
Hold on a second. We're trying to figure out our technical difficulty with the rain.
Yes.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
Yes. So that takes care of that.
Sharon, you stay on mute.
Up.
A little bit.
She needs to mute, and then we gotta see whether.
Joe, can you hear? So Sharon, you mute.
And this is not operational or feasible.
Joe, can you
We're
hear
trying
any
to
of
figure it
us?
out. So Joe, can you hear me now?
Don't have Sharon.
Joe, can you hear
me?
anybody speaking?
The static, the very loud static noise has stopped. You're muted beyond a mask, but
So we think it's
I
the
can make
rain.
out with some difficulty. But muted is better than what we had
Okay, so
a couple of minutes ago because there was static. It was impossible to hear anything at all.
let's try to do a roll call vote. And we'll start in this room, and then we'll go to Joe, and then Sharon, if you can unmute and then speak your presence and then mute yourself again. So roll call vote for calling the meeting to order. Meredith?
Aye.
Everybody move your mics as close as you can to your, this one is the TV mic. Danielle?
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Jackie?
Aye.
Terry?
Aye.
Joe?
Go Osceola, aye.
Okay, Sharon, can you unmute, say you're here, and then mute yourself again?
I can really hear you, but I am here.
Thank you. Okay, so after all of that, we're actually going to adjourn into an executive session to pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Paragraph 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with Monomoy Regional Educators Association, MREA. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the district's bargaining or litigation position and the chair so declares it. May I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
And a second?
I would second.
Thank you. And a roll call vote. Terry?
Terry Russell, aye.
Jackie?
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Meredith?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Sharon, unmute and say aye, or whatever you want to say.
Aye.
Thank you, and the chair says aye. So we are going into executive session, coming out for a regular session in approximately 15 minutes. So about 6:50-ish. So we'll be back. Thank you. Okay, so we are back from our executive session. We adjourned that at 6:52, and I'll walk over here. It's now 6:54. So next on our agenda is the approval of the August 25th, 2021 regular meeting minutes. I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
I would second that.
Thank you. Any discussion, questions regarding those minutes? Sorry, Jackie?
Okay, I'm not listed as a present member on Zoom.
Okay, so we'll add Jackie as present. Tina?
That's okay. Joe just came on.
Thank you, Joe. We are in the middle of looking at the approval of the August 25th minutes. We have a motion and a second, and we're looking for further discussion. Do you have any further discussion for those minutes? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go for a vote.
Did
Terry?
Sharon
Aye.
have her hand up?
Sharon's listening.
Oh, she's listening. Okay, I better put my
Jackie?
glasses on.
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Meredith?
Aye.
Joe?
Approval of minutes, aye, Joe Osceola.
Thank you. Sharon?
Hi, let me know what you're doing because Joe said it. I can't hear the rest, but yes, I do approve the minutes.
Thank you. All right, the next is the August 16th, the reopening plan form that we hold as a school committee. I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Thank you. In a
I
second?
would second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the August 16th forum minutes? Seeing none, roll call vote. Terry?
Aye.
Jackie?
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Meredith?
Aye.
Joe?
Joe Osceola, aye.
Thank you. Sharon?
Aye.
Thank you, and I'm an aye, so that is unanimous. Next on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any public that would like to make a comment to our meeting? Seeing none, we'll move into reports and discussions. And first on our agenda is the 2021-2022 senior class trip. Ms. Corrigan, are you presenting, or we have some students to do that for you?
We have our class president, our class secretary, and our class treasurer that would like to give you a short presentation.
Awesome, thank you. Hello, ladies.
Hi, my name is Charlotte Blue, and I'm the class president for the class of 2022. I have a short little presentation, so if I could, I'll just share my screen if that's all right.
That would be great, thank you. You're good, it's showing.
Charlotte, if you're talking, nobody can hear you.
So we can't hear anybody who might be talking right now.
Charlotte is muted.
Charlotte, if you are, you're muted. Anybody else out there that can start the presentation?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. So So we
Okay,
have
sorry about that.
No, that was
it
very
said my
good. That was
microphone-
very, very good. It was very important for us to have a young person mess up the mute and unmute. Thank you.
You just made Joe feel much better.
Let me see if I could share that again.
Poor thing, she's probably sweating. She's still muted, she's back to muted.
So you're muted again, Charlotte. So we have the presentation, or we have information in front of us, so if you want to just talk about it.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. Sorry, it keeps muting me when I try to present. So, so our senior class trip is going to be to New York City in this spring, and the company we have chosen is the Adventure Student Travel Company. So, we have a mock itinerary which would have us leaving the high school on May 20th, 2022 at 7 a.m. and we would arrive in New York approximately at 1 p.m. And that day we would go down to Midtown Manhattan and do a walking tour of the Rockefeller Center and St. Patrick's Cathedral. And then that night we would do a dinner cruise on the Spirit dinner cruise line through the river there. Sorry about that. And then on day 2, we would head to Madison Square Garden as well as Central Park, the Wax Museum or Top of the Rock. And we would head to the Theater District and Times Square. We would have dinner at the Hard Rock Cafe, and we would hopefully see a Broadway play that night. And then we would head back to the hotel that night. That would be May 21st, 2022. And then the third day would be May 22nd, 2022. And we would depart the hotel in New York City, and we would go to Agawam in Massachusetts and do a day at Six Flags at the amusement park, where we would have lunch included, and that afternoon we would head home back to the high school. So our fundraising plans right now, the price for the trip is a little bit high, so luckily we've raised a lot of money so far, and we have some other big fundraisers coming up this year. We sell wreaths every year, and we also have a Wizards basketball game coming up this spring, which usually brings in a lot of money. And we do popcorn sales, so luckily if these are all successful this year and we get a lot of student involvement, we should be able to drop that price for students significantly so that majority of the class can attend the trip in the spring. And that is all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Charlotte? Danielle?
What is the total, well, what's the fundraising goal that you have?
Sharon, can you mute again for a moment, please? Charlotte, did you hear Danielle's question?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I did not.
Pull it really close and just...
Okay, Charlotte, what's the total fundraising goal that you have for this trip?
Did you hear that?
No one can hear her. They're all speaking.
Her question was, what is your total fundraising
Sorry, I
goal?
couldn't hear it then.
What is your fundraising goal?
Our fundraising?
The goal, the financial, how much money
So
do you...
right now we have fundraising. Oh, the goal?
Yes.
So right now we are pretty comfortable with money, but I think our goal would be able to get each student down to like maybe like a couple hundred. Right now it's about $900, so I think we're going to try to see how many students we have interested, and we're going to see how much we can fundraise and involve in that, so we can bring that price down.
We currently have about a little over $17,000. We still are waiting for our sales to go through, along with the Wizards that brings in somewhere between $7,000 to $10,000, along with the popcorn, which is about $3,000 to $6,000. If we
We lost your signal a little bit at the end of that. After the popcorn sales.
We can bring the price down to about $500 per student, if not more.
Okay, thank you. Sharon, I saw you had a question?
You have trouble with the mic? Push it on.
Yeah,
See
I
that
was
one?
doing
Are you sure? I'm sorry. I'm gonna go back and see if I can.
You're muted, Sharon?
I can hear you.
She's speaking. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, so, does anyone know what percentage of the class generally goes on this trip? I would love to see all the kids that want to go on this trip that they will remember forever.
So to kind of maybe angle your question a little bit, Sharon, could we say that anybody who wants to go, is there a way so that any student who wants to go can go financially? Is that kind of where you want to go, Sharon?
This one should return, but
Okay, so is that thought, please, plausible, Ms. Corrigan or Charlotte?
We put it out to the entire class. I took a survey, and the majority, well, not the majority, I'm sorry. The amount of students that responded were between, it was, I believe, about 68 students. The majority of them wanted to go, and there were a few that said that they couldn't go due to funds. However, when I held a class meeting at the end of the school year, we were able to, with conversation, we were able to get across that the more that we're able to fundraise, the less money that we can do, along with the fact that we will have additional money at the end, and so that if we have a student that person cannot afford to go, we would be able to pay for them and call it like a scholarship, as long as they're able to help us fundraise in any way, either or attend a meeting, anything.
That's great, thank you. Terry, you have a question? Move your mic super close.
I think the advisor answered my question.
Okay, thank you. Tina?
Just for clarification, this is option 2, so I'm assuming there was another option, but this is the one that you chose. Is that correct?
Option actually had, I just had the pulled up. Option 1 did not, so it says day 2 under 10 a.m. where it says Madame Tussauds or Top of the Rock. It had only given us Madame Tussauds. And so the class was split whether they wanted Madame Tussauds or Top of the Rock. And so when I talked to the coordinator, she said it would actually be better if we had both of those options, because there is a chance that when we get to New York, that we would have to split the group. So half the class would have to go to the Madame Tussauds, and the other half would have to go to Top of the Rock, just for ticket reasons and the amount of people that can go at a time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Terry?
I have a question that probably was looked into and wouldn't work out, but as we know, this is the 20th anniversary of the Trade Center. And I wondered if now that center is a memorial, if the planning committee looked into what it would cost for the group to visit that site, say, versus the Wax Museum.
Yeah, good question.
I don't know if they heard me.
I heard you. All right,
You hear me
so
now.
my memory, because I did this in June before I left for the summer, because I didn't want to be crunched for time in September. My memory was that we had looked into it, and somewhere on the trip, there's a part where we go through that. The coordinator said that it won't be left out, but it's not like a destination. It was more of like a pass through and see it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Jackie, you had your hand up?
Yeah, my question was, chaperones, how many adults are going on this trip, ratio to students?
The trip, the company is allowing us to have, for free, that includes one chaperone for 10 children. So for every 10 children, one chaperone is allowed to go without having to pay. So however many, the price that they gave us was for 76 students. They also gave us one for 50. So you can see that for at least every 10 there's a chaperone.
So the free
It would all
7,
depend on how many kids sign up.
okay, so that free 7 and free 5 is pertaining to the chaperones.
Say that one more time?
On the trip pricing, the free column, that is pertaining to the chaperones. Yeah, the answer.
Yes, yeah. The chaperones are included in that price.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tina and then Danielle?
Actually, I'm good.
Okay,
Yeah.
Danielle?
Can you hear me now?
Try one more time, Danielle.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yell like at your kids.
Yeah.
You can, okay. Okay, I was wondering, now that you clarified what that free column meant, if there has been any consideration to utilizing those free positions towards students rather than chaperones and asking chaperones to pay as a way to support students going who might not be otherwise able to.
That's something that we never thought about.
That's a good question.
We can consider it, and when we find out how many people are going to sign up, I can put it out there for the chaperones and see if they're willing to do that. I do want to adhere to the policy that was on the slip that I had, which was preferred that one chaperone per 10 kids. So I would imagine that the chaperones that I would be getting would be more than willing to pay, especially if they're really excited to go and help out our class. But that's a really great idea, and thank you so much for that forward.
Okay. Terry?
I echo Danielle's request, and beginning with Sharon's inquiry, and then I said I agreed with it. I really think, and I know for years, it's a matter of some delicacy to make certain the 90 youngsters of the senior class, or 82, or 76, whatever that number is. My feeling has always been over the years that any child who wants to go but can't afford it, somehow they go. Now, I know to find that out at 16-year-olds and 17, it's awful hard to find that truth. But I don't want to miss the opportunity to reinforce my own feeling that a senior class trip, if there were a way that there would be 3 or 6 or 7 youngsters who can't earn enough money and can't get help at home, they need to go. And I don't know, I know guidance counselors and other people could to chat with them if there were those kids. So I just wanted that made public.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, I just have one, and that's just making sure the protection in case Delta becomes whatever other letter later down in the alphabet and they can't go. I'm assuming there's something in there that if they pay now towards the trip, to be able to get their money back if the trip is canceled due to COVID or anything else? Or is that only if they do?
Yeah, so there is a student protection plan. It is paid on our group's behalf, so I would imagine that if we do have to cancel, part of our money goes to the protection plan, but we would be able to receive the majority of our funds back.
So it says that the protection plan is optional? So is it you encouraging the families to do that for that reason, or?
I think it's
Hold on one second. That, actually, I would have to go back and ask the company. She's been pretty clear. I haven't reached out to her since June when I sent this in. I'll reach out to her and ask her how that goes along. I thought that it was included, but now I'm looking at it and I'm guessing it is not.
Yeah, if you don't mind, that would be, I think, an extra measure of safety for the family signing up for it. All right, does anybody else have any questions? Tina?
Yeah, just wanted to follow up on what you're asking, Nancy. It says, under included, it says student protection plan, and then under optional group travel protection plan. So it might be two different plans, perhaps?
Post-departure student?
Oh, poster, okay. Yeah, I just, because I'm kind of wondering, it might be two different plans. So just in your research, I'm assuming they would have to have some,
You would assume,
yeah,
but
something.
you don't want to assume, so.
Right, that's true.
I don't think they usually include protection plans.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I
that'd be
can
some,
get that clarified. I can send an email as soon as possible to her, and she's pretty good about getting back to me within, when it's office hours, she gets back to me within 45 minutes. So I'd
that's-
imagine that if I send it tonight, I'll have it first thing in my mailbox.
okay, yeah, and if you wouldn't mind sharing, that would be great. Thank you. All right, and are you guys okay if we put off our vote until our next meeting? So the 23rd of September? Because we typically like to wait to vote at
Sure.
the following meeting. So if we can get that information, I think that would be helpful. And then as long as nobody else has any questions, we can put that for a vote for our next meeting. I'm sorry, Danielle?
I do have one more question. Where are you staying, or do you have options when it comes to the hotel, or how is that decision being made? And when will you know that decision?
As soon as we book with the company, they'll be able to get us the best pricing for the hotel. They haven't been able to book the hotel because I haven't given them a definite answer because I had to come here first.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, ladies. Have a good night. Try to stay dry. All right,
Thank you.
next on our agenda is the Monomoy Regional School District Ventilation Report. We have Rick Travers here. Hello.
Good evening. I'm Rick Travis, Director of Facilities. Thank you for having me tonight. I appreciate that. I'll keep it very brief and not put you to sleep. But this, the report, we only get a report like this, and I say this from my heart and very genuinely, is because of the support I get from the people in this room, and that's our school committee and our administration. We wouldn't have a report like that if you don't let me do day-to-day what I do, and that's to maintain these buildings to the standard that you expect them to be kept up to. So I really genuinely thank you for that. Because if you look through that report, considering the size of our buildings, the square footage, and the parts that are turning as we speak, the minute repairs that we have to do to just keep up our equipment as would be expected, it is minute. But the bottom line is we have the air in the buildings that we should have, and that's so vital. Because when the tech was on site, he explained to me some of the nightmares he walks into in districts. And he says he was just blown away at the upkeep. And once again, that comes back to the support I get. So I thank you so much for that. Once again, we are a work in progress, and we always will be, and we'll stay on top of everything like we expect to. If anyone has any questions, please, I'll say this now. Always feel free to call me. I'll take you on a tour if there's something you want to see. I relish the chance to do that. I'm proud of this district. I'm proud to be part of it. And I am always available. Weekends, whatever it may be, I don't care. We'll do a tour, whatever. And I appreciate if you did call me. I actually look forward to it. Does anyone have any questions concerning the report at this point? Please.
No questions. I just want to thank you for your enthusiasm, your professionalism, every single time. Hold on one sec.
Go super close to your mic.
I was.
Go super close too.
Super close. Can you hear me?
Hold on, let me get this back.
That's for up here.
Oh,
Okay, sorry.
anyway, I'm backing up. I just want to tell you again, I appreciate your professionalism, your enthusiasm. Every time I see you, whether it's a meeting, a committee meeting, you're so enthusiastic and professional. It's so wonderful to have somebody like you in charge of our facilities, so I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. And to be successful means a lot to me too. So I thank you for that. Once again, just a few quick notes is we had a great summer. Our custodians did a fantastic job cleaning, painting. It was real successful. And I'm happy. And once again, I'm proud. We did some really neat things in the district too. And like I said, I've got so much help from administration, you folks, that we can only do this because of that. We put a new freezer in at the middle school. Their unit was over 20 years old. So we had it totally removed and replaced, which was on our capital plan for quite a while. So we did that. So we're in good shape over there. We did some camera upgrades at the Howard Elementary that really give them what they need over there to see what they need to see. Once again, paint, and we've added some security cameras out here on the turf field. And of course, all the general maintenance that we do throughout the summer. So I feel really good about where we're going, and we'll just stay on top of it.
Thank you.
Any
Thanks, Rick.
questions? No, I want to echo what Tino said. I love having you here because you are so enthusiastic, and I can just tell that you love what you do.
I do. Thank you
thank
very
you.
much. And I do. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sharon, did you have a question? Go ahead, unmute. Sorry.
So, Rick, I think that you and the custodial help over there do a great job. I couldn't hear most of what you had to say and nothing anyone else had to say, but this report was a little bit technical, so I couldn't really understand a lot of it. One of the things it said was sufficient, something was sufficient. That word, actually I can tell you which one it said that. I thought I could find it.
Yeah, no, I have.
I guess I guess I don't see it at the moment. Is that term a term meaning that it's good, or is that just kind of low?
No, what it
Do
means,
you have
Sharon.
any idea?
Sure, yeah, I do. It means that it's what is expected according to the specs of the equipment that we use. So to me, it's a very positive word.
Okay, the other thing is, all of the things in here that it points out that it needs to do, which didn't seem like there was a lot, but the things that need to be done, are they all scheduled to be done?
Yes, they are. We're just getting proposals now, but this is routine, Sharon. This list could be in 3 or 4 months after we do this, we'd get the same type of list. It's just the normal upkeep of thermostats and sensors and things like that. So please don't be scared by it, but we are in the process of getting this done. The VFD drive here in the school for the air handler, that's already been proposed. We're just waiting to get scheduled. It's tough to get parts right now with a couple of these different parts that like, for instance, motors and stuff. We just can't get them like we were able to do prior to COVID. So we do our best, and we push along as quick as we can, and hopefully we get some help to get those as quickly as we need them. But things are taking a little longer, but we will get everything repaired. And just,
Thank you so much.
oh, you're very
Thank
welcome.
you.
You're very welcome.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Carpenter, Dr. Carpenter.
If you can hear me, I feel like I'm at the screen.
Thank you.
I want to emphasize just the strategy that we've had when it comes to ventilation. I mean, it was really clear as the pandemic was starting to occur that we're dealing with an airborne vector. And I met with Rick and Michael, and we just wanted to make sure that we got a jump on getting everything in the district that has a motor, that we're moving air as much as we can. And if you look even on the deficiencies list on what they're saying we should fix, it's like, like temperature readings here and there. It's, there are very few things that are like a fan. In fact, I think there might only be two things on the list that are, here's two things that need some support in getting more to have a fan move. And if you think about how many different moving components in an HVA system that you'd have in any given building, and the amount of deficiencies is pretty small. Very few of those actually involve moving air itself, is sort of a testament to Rick jumping on this on the front side of the pandemic when we actually could get parts. And he's right now. I mean, it's like everybody's recognizing now, okay, we need to make sure we maximize airflow, and the ability to get some parts for some of this these days is a little bit compromised. But we were able to get open last year when some school districts weren't able to, because aging buildings and fans, blowers here, there, and all over the place weren't working. So again, I really appreciate Rick jumping on this on the front end, much the same way that Jim jumped on things on the front end to make sure that we were set to be able to go remote when we had to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
All right, next on our agenda is the FY23 budget schedule. Mr. McMillan?
All right, good evening, everybody. I'll try and summon the same level of enthusiasm that Rick has for his job for the budget schedule. I would also just say that, working with Rick is an absolute pleasure, and he is, phenomenally capable at managing our facilities, which is a great asset to the district. But yes, so I sent around a memorandum with the budget timetable. Really, this is just a heads up that the work's about to start. I've just followed the same dates that we've had in the past. Maybe not the exact same dates, but the same key milestones we've had in the past. We hit the ground running the first couple of months. We got a lot of the work done in generating the figures and the needs. So a superintendent and I will work with the principals and directors to develop our needs for the district and what next year might look like in terms of the budget. And then we'll start to sort of expose, work with you, reviewing those figures as we kind of develop and hone in on the budget figure. And then that kind of goes, and we start, and the whole time we're talking with the both towns, but it's really as we develop, get a sort of firmer number, then they can start to get their heads around it and give us feedback on where that might be coming in. I expect, as in the past, both towns, particularly Harwich, will give us a sense of where they need us to come in, and we'll, that will become part of the discussion. And then, we look towards the spring meetings is when we would finally approve the budget.
Questions? Tina and then Danielle?
I'm going to double whammy here so I can make sure I'm heard.
Yeah.
So on October, so the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen in Harwich, so it looks like that's a joint meeting? Is that your understanding? They're going to give you a date?
Yeah, again, I've just kind of followed what we've experienced in the past. They sometimes have started the budget process with either a selectmen meeting or a FinCom meeting where they kind of outline their expectations for the budget. So it's kind of either or, maybe both.
Okay. And the reason I ask is it seems to come up in Harwich every year that the Finance Committee says that they are not getting their own presentation. So so it's good that we work them in.
And we did talk to them last year, funnily enough, I noticed. I was going through some emails, and I had some email correspondence around this time last year with them a little later, because we went and met with them and presented, and then on a number of occasions, 2 or 3 times we met with the FinCom, so we'll try and make sure we do that again this year.
Thank you.
Danielle?
In October also, what does the Chatham Budget Kickoff Summit, what does that mean?
So they have, actually, I'm trying to remember if they had it last year, but they have as kind of a meeting for all their department heads where they review where they expect the budget to go next year. So it's just kind of given us a sense of how, the factors we should consider as we develop our budget. It's a bit of, development of a budget is really a conversation about, what the district needs and what funds are available, and making sure that we are able to tie those together. So I think the Kickoff Budget Summit is with the town of Chatham when they kind of give us an idea of how much we should be able to expect and what other projects are a priority for the town at that time. Really kind of starts to develop our guardrails of where, we should be working.
So that's with the Board of Selectmen and all of the department heads?
Yeah,
And the
I
FinCom.
believe so, yeah.
It started, I'd say, probably 7-8 years ago, shortly after Monomoy. Chatham organizes it. It's the Board of Selectmen, and it's usually a presentation by the town manager and the finance director. They're presenting to the Board of Selectmen. The Finance Committee is there as well, and all of the department heads, and we're invited to be a part of it at the table as well as a joint member. And the town manager kind of gives almost like a state of the town to the selectmen at the beginning of the budget season. So it's really a precursor to everybody's budget season on where we were last year, what happened last year, where we project we're going to be in the future. It's really been a really great thing to be a part of. So whenever it happens, I highly recommend anybody who can go be there. Harwich doesn't do anything like that. It's more of a, conversation, and then we go to the selectmen's meeting. But this is a joint budget meeting for everybody. So it's really nice to have. It gives us a nice feel for the beginning of the season. Jackie?
Thank you. Michael, I just want to clarify, November, December, it says budget meetings with school committee, budget subcommittee. That's
Yeah.
that's our finance
Yes.
subcommittee, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'm like, do we have another subcommittee to the finance subcommittee?
No, we just have the finance
It's the finance, okay,
committee.
perfect, that's it, thank you.
Anybody else, any questions? Dr. Carpenter?
I was going to say, Danielle, and on some level, it's there's a brief moment in time that you can dream, so to speak, because some of what happens is Jill and Alex will share, what they see as sort of the fiscal wherewithal of the town. So you can kind of see, and it's like here's sort of what we could carry as a placeholder for education. But every single year
Yeah.
since I've been here, that placeholder is not something that our partner town is looking at as their placeholder. So yes, I say, it's one of the first presentations of the year, and you can dream for a moment, and then you have the reality check.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda is subcommittee chairs, and thank you, Sharon, for reminding, it's my mistake to not bring this up earlier in our summer meetings, but we do need to have subcommittee chairs, and those subcommittee chairs are basically in charge of making sure that the meetings are posted properly, minutes are taken, procedures are followed, and the minutes are then submitted to Leah for posting online. I do know that the policy subcommittee recently met, and we do have Danielle is the chair of the policy subcommittee. In terms of superintendent evaluation, I believe they have a meeting coming up next week. So when you're at that meeting, if you guys could figure out a chair, if you want to vote at that meeting, and just let me know. And then finance subcommittee, when we get going in October/November, we can work on that. And then negotiations, we will work on a chair for that one as well. And if any subcommittees have an issue with a chair, assigning a chair, it is my prerogative to assign one without objection from the committee. So if anybody can't assign one or nobody wants to do it, then we'll just assign one without objection. But everybody good with subcommittee chairs? Tina?
Yeah, just a question, well, not a question. If we could also, with the subcommittee chairs, I think it would be a good idea for the subcommittee chair to actually facilitate the meeting.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
So add that to the list of to-dos, to facilitate making sure that staying on track, staying on task with the agenda. Sorry, I just got something in my eye. Okay, Danielle?
So, as someone who's new and coming into this, I'm wondering, is there a vision or any sort of thinking to how to kind of more formalize the process of, this is like a process question, like, is this become like a policy of the school committee that this is what a subcommittee chair does, these are the roles and responsibilities? Does that information live anywhere, or should it live somewhere so that it's documented and clear and
We'll have to
can be
look at the
referenced?
subcommittee policy or the meetings policy to verify. I can look at that and we can think about it. In terms of procedure, it really should be the first meeting after reorganization, after you have your assignments, to elect a subcommittee chair. And that was my fault for not reminding everybody. But in terms of what they do, we just need to look at the policy and see if it's there. And if not, we can look at the MASC policy guidelines and see if there's one in there that we need to adopt.
Okay.
So that's a great idea. Thank you. Meredith and then Sharon?
Just for clarity, when we're talking about the subcommittee chair posting the meeting, that really is to Leah. and
Making
then
sure
Leah.
that it's posted.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
Leah's our poster, but we want to verify that the meetings were posted.
Perfect.
Sharon?
Yes. Is there any attempt being made so that Joe and I can hear? I can occasionally hear words that you say, Nancy, but I haven't been able to hear even a word that anyone else has said on this meeting. Is there a way to put translate or some kind of, so I could read it?
Did you hear Michael speaking? We're trying, there's not a whole lot we can do. We have the really high ceilings in the library. I'm speaking like on top of my microphone, fortunately with a mask on. But the high ceilings and the rain is making it incredibly difficult for all of us to hear. I put on my teacher voice.
I can't hear.
Joe, can you hear?
Is there a way to put the translate on this?
Can we put the translate on there? We're looking to that.
Put wording.
Yeah.
Jim is looking at that right now.
Hey, Madam Chair?
Yes.
So when we speak through these two microphones,
This one,
can Sharon not, I mean, if it's echoing, because it's echoing in the room, shouldn't it pick up through our mics?
this is the room.
Yeah.
This
But it should
is
echo,
Zoom.
I would think, right?
So if we talk really close to the mic,
No, she's saying the combination of the two.
yeah, I don't know how that's gonna work.
Did she hear Tina?
Hey, Sharon,
If we put
can you
these
hear
two
me?
together,
Hey, Sharon.
I hear saying Sharon, but I don't hear any other word,
Okay,
and I don't know who's saying it.
all right.
hold on one second.
We're trying.
I did hear that.
Ah, she heard that. We're trying, is that what you heard?
Sharon, you
Yeah,
can
are
hear
your
me. I'm in the
speakers,
same
hey, Joe, can you hear us?
I'm not in this meeting, frankly.
Oh,
I
Joe
know,
said-
I
Joe said he's
understand.
not in the meeting.
What you say?
I'm just a body in a chair as part of a forum, and there's
All right.
really no need for it, actually. So I'm
I can't even hear
going
Joe.
to hit the ejector seat sooner rather than later, because I'm just not here.
My lips and.
So
I know, I feel the same way.
the control
It would be a
room
loss.
can't figure out any sort of connection. The only guess is because the big open space of the library and trying to get the sound to be focused. But if everybody in here could basically put the microphone like up to your mouth when you speak, that might be able to help. But with the masks and the rain,
Things, but
so we're doing our best, guys. I'm sorry.
Sharon, can you hear me?
sometimes it works in there, but we can't hear every person that talks. But this time, we can't hear really any person that's talking.
Verizon.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on. I'm sorry, but we do have a quorum in the meeting here, so we need to move on, and we can kind of deal with it as it comes. The next on the agenda is the substitute rates for FY 2022. Michael is coming back.
Did Sharon leave?
Hello again. So, I circulated a memo for the FY22 substitute rates. So we actually came to school committee a few times last year, once or twice last year, to separately approve different substitute rates. We came and talked about teachers and also custodians. And what I'm trying to do is do this all at once every year. So every year we'll come and have you approve these for the rest of the school year. So this year, the changes are, last year we introduced a COVID incentive where teachers and teacher assistants received payment after they'd been doing a certain number of days substituting in the district. And we think that helped. However, it was tricky to implement because, and this is something I'm going to come back to talk to you about next time we meet, but some people who came in for like 28 days and did a lot of work and really helped us out did not get the incentive, whereas somebody who was here 31 did. And it's some inequality in terms of effort and impact on the district versus the reward. In addition, our rates, other districts' rates in the area are a little more than ours or around the same, and so what we'd like to do is bring our rate up, get rid of the incentive, and instead just increase the rate by an hour for both teachers' assistants and teachers. And the cost is it's really hard to estimate substitute costs because obviously the demand and supply of substitutes can change, but it cost us about $15,000 last year for the incentive, and it'd just be a little more than that to increase both teachers and teachers' assistants by $1. So that's what we would request that we do instead. And the only other change that we're proposing today is to increase the cafeteria rate up to $14.25 to bring it in line with our clerical workers and the state minimum wage, which will come into effect in January. So although we actually are not subject to the state minimum wage as a municipal employer, it only applies to non-municipal employers. So we actually this is a little trivia for you, but we're only subject to the federal minimum wage, which is like $7 an hour or something like that. However, we do compete in a market where other employers who would want the same staff as we do will have to pay the minimum wage. So although we don't have to pay the minimum wage, it behooves us to do so. So those are the changes, and every year we review them and we'll keep this up to date. Last year we increased custodians and we introduced 3 steps, which worked out really well this summer, and so we're planning just to keep that in place for now, and everything else stays the same.
Questions for Michael? Terry?
Thanks, Michael. I target teacher substitutes daily.
Yes.
I'm sure in some way you take a look at what NOSIT and
Yes,
DY
exactly.
to keep us in that market. And
Yes.
if it's within...
And that's what we're doing. So they are,
Yep.
this will take us right around where NOS is.
Other questions for Michael?
It's
Okay,
very stressful trying to be really loud and present this information
Right?
at the same time.
Try to focus and yell
Yeah.
at the same time. All right, so we are looking for a motion to approve these substitute rates. Jackie?
I move to approve the substitute rates for the FY22 school year as detailed in the memorandum provided to the school committee.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, Joe? You understand, you heard what we were voting on?
I'm just not able to vote. I have to abstain.
Okay. Meredith?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Jackie?
Aye.
Terry?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so that is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Next up is our reporting out from an executive session. Our executive session at the beginning of the meeting was to discuss the memorandum of agreement between the school committee and the Monomoy Regional Education Association for this upcoming school year. And the template for this year's memorandum agreement was using last year's agreement that was used to open the schools. And there's been a couple of changes, just updating it into more current information. When this was done last year, there were no vaccines. Now there are vaccines. So that is included in it. Process for vaccinated staff and unvaccinated staff. Dr. Carpenter, can you help me out? Other talking points that were in this agreement, if you would, please? Just yell.
Yeah, so.
Put on your teacher voice.
So there are, I would say, some incentives in the agreement to encourage staff vaccination. There is, the agreement itself dovetails into everything that we have had presented about our reopening plan and is in support of that. It also, sort of acknowledges the extra duties that are put on the nurses with regard to testing that we'll be putting in place this year for test and stay, that we'll have our nurses taking on responsibilities before the start of school to have children ready for the start of the school day if there are close contacts, and I'll talk more about test and stay here in a few minutes. But it is something that will, I think, very successfully help us continue to operate for in-person learning.
Okay, thank you. Any other further comments or reporting out on the executive session? Okay, so in our executive session, we did vote to approve this memorandum of agreement unanimously, but we do need to have a public vote of that as well. So I'd entertain a motion. Jackie?
I move to approve the Monomoy Regional Education Association Memorandum of Memorandum of Agreement as presented in our executive session and presented at our meeting tonight.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes? I was... Terry?
I did mumble.
The two of them at the same time.
It was the
so
same
Tina's
time.
passing it on to Terry.
But we'll go to Terry.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Terry?
Aye.
Jackie?
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Meredith?
Abstain.
Thank you. Joe? We're voting on the memorandum of agreement from the executive session.
Yeah, I've been trying to follow you on YouTube, but that's not working out very well either.
You can abstain if you need to. Joe, we need either a yes, no, or an abstention.
I know enough about this to be able to say yes on this vote, but having said yes and voted on this, I'm not going to be able to hear future business of the committee, so it's a yes and out, and we'll try to catch you next time as long as there is a quorum present in the room. And is that the case?
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Yes.
Okay, over and out. Better
Thank
luck
you.
next time.
Thank you. And I'm an aye, so that is a unanimous agreement, or a unanimous vote to that agreement. Thank you, everyone. Next on our agenda is a prior year invoice. Dr. McMillan.
Yes.
I've upgraded you.
Hello again. So this is just one prior invoice from the legal, for legal services. We, they sent us 2 invoices 1 month, which kind of threw off our count, which is why we didn't realize we had one outstanding.
Okay, any questions for Michael for the prior year invoice? Entertain a motion.
Question.
Yes, question.
So just for clarification, so the total is $2,046, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, so it says last payment of $1,430 was applied July 19th.
Yeah,
so-
so because they have sent us invoices since then, which we've received
Okay.
and paid. It's just
Okay.
we haven't paid
All
this
right,
one.
thank you.
Good question, thank you. Entertain a motion? Jackie?
I move to approve the prior year invoice as presented in our packet from Merrick O'Connell, attorneys at law,
In the amount of?
in the amount of $2,046.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tina. Any other questions, discussion? Meredith?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
I switched the order to keep you on your toes. Tina?
Aye.
Jackie? Aye. Terry?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so that's unanimous. Thank you. I like how you appeared between the bookcases, by the way. That was good. All right, next on our agenda are subcommittee representative liaison reports, and we have the first reading of a policy EBCFA for face coverings. Danielle.
Thank you. So the policy subcommittee met earlier this week, and Melissa gave us an overview of the policy changes that were recommended based on what was in place last year and how we wanted to tweak it to better clarify things for this year. We had some discussion, made a few changes. Really, I think one of the concerns that really came out was wanting to have the policy be broad enough that it kind of held all that it needed to hold, but then from there, procedures would be more explicit about how this policy would be enforced. And Melissa walked us through kind of how that happens and why that happens and kind of the reasoning for wanting to keep policy kind of as broad as possible. But we ended up inserting some more specifics in this policy to make it a stronger policy. And one of the concerns was around minimizing loopholes for anybody to basically not follow this policy. So there was some significant discussion around changing some wordings to make it reflect what our intention was with it. And I would say anybody else from the subcommittee could add what I missed or clarify anything.
Great job.
You're hired. All right, does anybody have any questions for Danielle regarding the policy? My only question, and that's not really a question, it's more of a clarification, but I think one of the biggest hot button topics would be what happens if somebody doesn't follow the policy. So at the end of it, it does say that the violations will be handled in the same manner as other violations of policy, and that's going to be reflected in the school handbooks. Because the violations have that, it's written in the school handbooks that we approved at our last meetings, or we looked at our last meeting, so. Jackie?
So would you want that third to last, violations of this policy by staff will be handled in the same manner as other violations of school committee policy as noted in the school policy manual?
School handbooks? No, I'm not necessarily looking to change it, I just wanted to make sure that it's said publicly that there are the rules and what happens if you violate it is by school. And it's not just you violate it, you're kicked out. It's a conversation that happens with the building principals in the school building. So no, I'm fine with the language. It was more of for everybody who's not watching because they can't hear us. Apparently, just so everybody's clear, this is being live streamed on YouTube, and that's perfectly clear. Everybody can hear that. It's the Zoom action that was having issues. So the recording of us and what will be live streamed and on tape on YouTube is perfectly clear, so everybody can hear that. Yep. So, but yeah, I just wanted to make note that it's kind of vague in here, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that because we do know that it's in the handbooks. And hopefully it's not something that we have to keep forever either, so. Any questions? Tina?
I just have one question, just because of some feedback that was received today. Student mask or face covering is to be provided by the student's family, staff members, yada. Do we need to have anything in there that says that, you know, that we'll have a supply? Does it, like, if a student comes or maybe forgets, where is it?
The second line, however, the district will supply disposable face coverings for
For
individuals.
individuals who arrive at a building. So that's clear that that includes students? Okay, all right, that's fine.
I think it includes everybody, in my opinion.
Okay.
It's because it starts out with student mask and then staff members, and then anybody who shows up without one, we will have disposable on hand.
Okay.
That's the way I read it.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine, because I think one could just see individuals who arrive at a building as visitors, but that's fine, as long as if it makes sense to everybody else.
Well, and I think even if a visitor happens, I mean, I've walked up to a building and I'm like, oh, and I have to go back to my car and dig out one. So I think even if a visitor shows up and is willing to put one on, I think they can be provided one, but that's not up to me.
Okay, I
That's
just
up to
wanted
the
to make sure it
building
was clear. Okay.
at entrance.
This was just based on feedback I got this afternoon, so I just want to make sure it was clear. All right.
Okay, so no other further questions. So this is our only opportunity to make any changes. At our next meeting, it has to be voted on as it is presented now with no changes. Okay, so this is our first reading. It'll be posted on our website, and it will be up for a vote at our next meeting. Okay, moving on to superintendent's reports. Dr. Carpenter.
Just in terms of some recognitions, I'd like to thank a number of area businesses that provided some we'll call them giveaways, door prizes at our opening convocation for the faculty this year. So thank you to the Red Nun that provided gift certificates, to Leighton Pest and Property Management, to the Mariners, Chatham Candy Manor, Chatham Village Market, the Beacon Room, Yankee Ingenuity, Curb Hair Studio, and the Cape Sea Grill. So we had 19 different gift certificates that we provided to staff, and I think there was a lot of appreciation from the staff. And what I shared with the staff is, that this was an example of a very grateful community that, that's really appreciative of the job that they have been doing this past year. So just in terms of recognitions, I know that, Terry had mentioned that 9/11 is, the 20th anniversary is just in 2 days. And, and here, I think it's just surreal now, because I remember being a young administrator when 9/11 happened, and I was in an admin meeting. I believe it was my first year as an administrator. I was in an admin meeting, and a knock comes on the door that we should come out in the hallway where there was a television that streamed CNN, and that something had happened, and we should understand what was going on. And it was just a day that became increasingly surreal, because one of my colleagues, one of my administrative colleagues at the time, started to get worried that she thought her parents might be traveling, and I think there was this wave of relief that they weren't on those planes, and tremendous sadness later on when they found out it was a different plane. And I just kind of talk about and reflect on sort of the ripples that 9/11 had with a generation of youngsters that I've seen go through buildings. And 9/11 was just under 3,000 individuals that day, and then subsequently you had 1,400 first responders, and then you had troops that responded. So all told, there's about 7,000 Americans over the last 20 years that have been caught up in that ripple effect, that have lost their lives, and kids that have lost parents. And I go contrast that. I was reading today in the American Association of Pediatrics news, that, from back in April, that already in this pandemic, 40,000 American children have lost parents. And I just kind of, think that that was in April, and we've had this, the count just continues, continues on. And, what will that impact be for, for this generation? So there's a lot of loss and a lot of unknowns. And, I was watching, I gained a different respect for Pete Davidson, when I saw the movie The King of Staten Island. And to look at, really the ripple effect of him losing his father as a first responder. And, and just kind of, I think he was playing it out in that movie. And then just thinking, it's like, okay, there are a lot of kids, including some of our own Monomoy children, that, that are going to have a ripple effect from this, from this new challenge of this generation of kids. So, so we have a lot of reflecting to do, and it's just sort of surreal that, that all of the children that we have going to our schools now weren't around, when 9/11 happened, but there are still ripples that, that continue from that. And I can imagine that there will be many, many ripples for decades to come from the losses that are happening right now. In terms of opening days, on a much happier note, it was just fantastic to see the kids back into buildings. I know that there was a lot of angst amongst all on how will anti-masking play out given the, what we had been exposed to, and both here and just nationally on the news. And it went without a hiccup at all. I mean, the kids were absolutely fantastic. I will acknowledge, my daughter did call me last night and had the conversation with the superintendent. And she's like, Dad, after really not wearing masks all summer long, really not into this. And I said, I know, we're all, we all would prefer not to have the masks on, but we have the masks on so that we can be in person. And she, and she gets it. And I know Ellen Beers, who is our HR person, was talking about her daughter's first day in kindergarten at Harwich Elementary School, and came home just super excited, like, mask? What mask? I mean, it's like, so I think the kids, I think despite what some are saying, what we're seeing from the kids when you walk through the schools is that they're just so glad to be back together, even if it does mean that, that to get through this, we are wearing masks. I have been spending a lot of time the last couple days just getting ready for the testing piece that we talked about in the reopening plan. And the state, the state has hired a firm, CIC Health, to sort of oversee. I'll be really fast because it sounds like we have a break in the rain. We might be able to get to our cars without being completely soaked. But this firm is still ramping up their ability to deal with all of the testing from all over the state that's going to be coming to them. So they're ramping up staffing. We, on our end, while it might take a while for them in terms of it may be a number of weeks before we are ready to do the pooled testing, or what we're going to refer to as routine COVID safety checks. So I imagine that's going to be a few weeks off. We'll be at a place starting Monday, that if we have children that are close contacts, we'll be ready to do the test and stay for the close contacts. So I'll be working with Joy tomorrow, maybe on Monday. We there's a lot to communicate out to families, and we want to make sure that we've got that communication piece right. But we'll be sending a link out to families that will allow them to to go in and pre-populate consent. We still, even with their consent, we will not go and test a child without the parent knowing that we're testing a child for, so you'd be called and say, the nurse would say, your child has been identified as a close contact. We want them to be able to stay in school. We will offer this test and stay. Here's how it would work. We need your consent. We can say, we see that we've already gotten it, but we just want to let you know, but we want to make sure that we've got the documentation. So we'll send out a link for staff and students, or their parents for the student's case, on the student side, to fill out that consent in advance. And again, we'd be reaching out to the families if we do this. We also have the ability with these Binax now test kits to test an individual if they show up in the nurse's office and are going to be sent home because they're starting to become symptomatic during the day, that we can give a data point on, is it COVID now, or it's not COVID yet, but we're going to still send you home and work with your primary care physician, get tested again. So we have the supplies on hand to launch that on Monday. We have at least the consent links that we can send out to families if we need to even put it in place for anyone on Monday. So we'll be ready to go there. The routine safety checks, COVID safety checks, I anticipate that is probably 2 or 3 weeks away. Just my gut on where this firm is in terms of hiring the staff that they need to put that in place. We got at least one of our buildings today got an email that supplies have been shipped to them. So the supplies to have that type of testing is on its way. But we haven't gotten notification that the vendor's ready to have us put that in place. But so I anticipate that's going to be towards the end of September, beginning of October before that goes in place. But we had a virtual meeting with the Department of Education in terms of COVID reporting. We had run a data dashboard that the nurses would give Joy information, and we were kind of updating how many cases there that we have as a district. The state is requiring that we report out to them every Wednesday by 5 o'clock how many cases of COVID we have, staff and students in each building. So we'll take that the information that we're reporting out to the state, we'll report out on our own data, data dashboard. And that, that's not, I want to emphasize when the state's asking us to report out how many positives, not necessarily that they became positive at school. In fact, the vast majority of the positives that we've had, with minor exceptions, would be the cases happened outside. It's just the staff member or the student is now home because they're positive. And at the moment, to the best of my knowledge, I believe we have some individuals that are in quarantine because they are close contacts from outside contacts, but I believe we only have one student, knock on wood, and I probably just jinxed us again, that I think is actively positive that we're tracking.
Okay. Any questions for Dr. Carpenter? Tina?
I don't have a question. I just wanted, let me get up close, wanted to make a comment. I really appreciated what you said about 9/11 and then COVID, because it didn't skip over my head when the young people were speaking earlier that I thought they weren't even born. And for myself, I lived in Alexandria, Virginia, and heard the plane hit the Pentagon. That's how close I live to the Pentagon, and have very vivid memories of that day. So I just appreciated your comments, because I was thinking about the class of 2020 in particular, that experience is a collective experience that will stay with them forever. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for those comments.
Any other questions? Discussion? Yes, Danielle?
I do. I'm not sure if it's on topic, so if it isn't, let me know, please. I was curious, when you were talking about how, the students that are here, the masking went off without a hitch. And we know that there are some families in the district who did not want their children to wear masks. And is this the time to hear or understand about how many families maybe have unenrolled and have chosen to homeschool because of our masking policy?
Yeah, that's all opening, I'd
Okay.
say. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly how many we will have. I asked Leah to have so school districts report out enrollment as October 1 enrollment figures. And so our next meeting gets pretty close to October 1. In the first week of schools, typically what happens is you have some students who you're expecting and you're resolving on, are they not coming or coming? So we'll have a much better feel for now, and we can dovetail that, sort of the pre-October 1 number report with a little, sort of sidebar with Mark Smith, who is tracking who has elected for homeschooling. I think, Leah, our total numbers, are we, in terms of enrollment this year versus last, we're what?
As of this very moment in time, we're 1782. Last year, we were 1780, I believe is what our total figure was. But the numbers for school have shifted.
Yeah. So globally, even though on paper the district is contracting, I mean, it seems from our community demographics, our enrollment is up on paper too, but it's still early. It's not official October 1. And I think Mark might have an idea how, in terms of homeschool this year versus last at the moment, and that still subject to some change.
Mark Smith, Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, and I do oversee the homeschool program. So I'm doing this on the fly, so I'm not going to give you accurate, and I can come back and more accurately answer the question if we want to put it on a future agenda. But just anecdotally looking over quickly just looking at the numbers that I have in front of me, the homeschool total number is down from last year. And just looking at the color coding quickly that my administrative assistant has done, the number of new homeschool students this year compared to last year is also down. So families that elected homeschooling that weren't homeschool families last year is down comparatively to last year. So a lot, at the end of this year, we sent out a letter to all homeschool families, which was just reminding, because for a lot of families it was a new process. They had to understand that it's an annual sort of notification. You have to let us know every year if you want to, and then if you're choosing to, we sent it out April-ish, that now is a good time to let whatever school that your child would be eligible to enroll, that now's a good time to let them know about your intentions to re-enroll so that they're considering them for class placement, et cetera, et cetera. So, again, a lot of families chose that option. Some continued with homeschooling. So we're about back to average, probably still a little bit above where we would have been a couple years before, but that's where I'd have to go back and relook. I don't want to nail myself to that particular statement. I have to go back and look at a couple years worth of data to give you a hard number, but it's definitely down from where it was last year. But to tell you where it fits on a norm, I'd have to go back and look at a couple years worth of data, and I can't pull that up that fast and look at that quickly. But if you want me to give you a more accurate answer, I can come back with that.
I would be very curious to know that number and that figure. And
We're
I think
currently
that's-
in just over 40 confirmed, which is down from what it was last year. It's almost half of what it was last year.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Terry?
Thanks, Nancy. Follow up on that, Michael. Recognizing last year and this year with the passion surrounding the pandemic, and this year with the issue belated in August around masks. Absent that, I wonder if we have a policy, Danielle, on homeschooling. That is to say, is there a date? Should there be a date that the administration and the respective school principals should be notified. Certainly the date isn't September 9th or even Labor Day. It should be much earlier, mid in August, or August 1, or whatever date someone chooses that's reasonable, other than a youngster coming home from a hospital or sick, that those moms and dads know by August 15th or August 1 that we're staying at home this year, rather than right now, and I respect the fact that it's a
Terry?
different story.
That's going a little beyond our opening day, so that might be something we'll put on a later agenda, if you want to talk about.
Sure, I'm sorry for that.
That's okay. Scott?
And just, I think while we, we heard voices that were sort of on one side, I only have, of all the emails that have come my direction, I only have one that I know a family pulled their child out because of masking to go to some other private venue where masks aren't required. Because the reality is that virtually everywhere you would want to pull your child to, there's going to be masks. So on the other hand, I just got an email yesterday that I believe involved 2 children I forwarded to Mark, where the family was actually pulling because of concerns still about the COVID. It was like the Delta variant for that family was a little too early to see our child back in schools. We're going to elect to homeschool. I actually think that there's far more on the homeschool front that is still families worried about COVID than worried about masking.
Yeah, I would confirm that most of the conversations I have with families, it's actually that the more families are concerned that it's just either there's somebody at home that they're concerned about, or they're just not comfortable yet with everything that's going on, and that's why they're electing for homeschooling. That's the general flavor of the conversations that I've had. Or I just haven't had, they've just sent their paperwork in. Or there's always families who just choose for whatever reason that homeschooling is the best option for their child. I mean, that's always been an option. People have always elected that option.
Right. Any other questions for Dr. Carpenter? All right. We have reached the end of our agenda. Last on our action items are presentation of the warrants. They have been presented. We are looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
We refuse to discuss that, so we'll do a roll call vote still anyways, just because. Tina?
Oh, no comment, yeah.
No, a roll call vote.
Oh,
I'm starting in the middle. I'm keeping people on your toes.
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Meredith?
Aye.
Terry?
Aye.
Jackie?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, and we are adjourned at 8:17.
Wow.
That's the record, that is.
We'll be